The White House said it plainly. April 8, 2026, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt at the podium. Despite once being the largest undersea force in the Middle East, Iran now has 0 submarine vessels. 0. 3 weeks earlier, on March 19th, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood at the same Pentagon podium and gave a different accounting. U.S. Central Command, he said, had damaged or sunk more than 120 Iranian naval vessels, including, and this is the exact quote, all 11 of the regime's submarines. All 11. 11 total. All gone. That was the claim. Here is the problem. Iran did not have 11 submarines. According to the World Directory of Modern Military Warships, the Nuclear Threat Initiative, and the International Institute of Strategic Studies, 3 of the most rigorously sourced open databases on global naval power, Iran began this war with 25 submarines, 23 Ghadir-class midget boats, 3 Russian-built Kilo-class attack submarines, 1 Fateh-class coastal submarine, 1 Nahang-class, 25 hulls confirmed across multiple independent assessments before the first Tomahawk left its tube. Hegseth said 11. Iran had 25. That is not a rounding error. That is 14 submarines that the Pentagon either did not know about, chose not to count, or cannot account for. And the ones most likely to be missing are the ones most dangerous to every mine-clearing ship, every escort destroyer, and every tanker captain waiting to transit a 6-mile corridor that has not yet been cleared. Where are the other 14? Subscribe to the channel. We do not accept press briefing arithmetic. We run the numbers ourselves. And this number, the gap between 11 and 25, changes everything about what happens next at Hormuz. To understand why missing submarines matter more than 60 destroyed warships, you first need to understand what the Ghadir actually is. It is not a submarine the way most people picture a submarine. An American Ohio-class displaces 18,750 tons. It is 170 meters long. It carries 24 ballistic missiles and a crew of roughly 155. It is the most destructive single platform ever built. It operates in the deep ocean, thousands of feet below the surface, where water pressure and temperature gradients shield it from detection. The Ghadir displaces 125 tons surfaced. It is 29 meters long, roughly the length of 3 school buses end to end. Its maximum submerged speed is 8 knots. It carries a crew of 7. Every analyst who looked at that comparison dismissed the Ghadir. That is the wrong comparison. The Ghadir was not built to fight the Ohio. It was built to fight the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz is not the deep ocean. The Strait of Hormuz averages 36 meters deep. Vast sections run as shallow as 20 meters. The shipping channels themselves, the lanes tankers must use, sit in 50 to 70 meters of water. That is roughly the height of a 20-story building from seabed to surface. Inside that depth, a nuclear submarine cannot safely operate. An Ohio-class would drag its keel across the bottom. A Los Angeles-class attack submarine, the U.S. Navy's standard hunter-killer, cannot safely maneuver in water shallower than 60 meters and loses most of its acoustic advantage in depths below 90. The Ghadir was designed for exactly 30 to 50 meters of water. It was optimized for the Persian Gulf's noisy, shallow, thermocline-disrupted environment the way a Formula One car is built for a specific circuit. Take it anywhere else and it underperforms. Put it in Hormuz and it disappears. Here is why. Anti-submarine warfare depends on sonar, either active, which emits a pulse and listens for the return, or passive, which listens for acoustic signatures emitted by the target. Both methods require a predictable acoustic environment. Deep ocean provides that. A vessel moving through cold, quiet water at 3,000 feet generates a sound signature that propagates cleanly for miles. The Strait of Hormuz generates none of those conditions. Commercial shipping traffic, or what remains of it, creates constant background noise. Drilling operations along the Iranian coast add acoustic interference. The shallow seabed creates echo clutter that confuses both active and passive sonar. Thermoclines, temperature boundaries between water layers, bend and scatter sound waves unpredictably. In that environment, a diesel-electric submarine running on batteries generates almost nothing. No heat signature, no radar return. And when it stops, when it settles onto the seabed and powers down entirely, its acoustic signature becomes indistinguishable from a rock. A 125-ton steel cylinder sitting on the floor of the Strait of Hormuz, silent, waiting. The world's most advanced sonar suite cannot find what it cannot hear. The Ghadir's design origin is not Iranian, it is North Korean. According to an unclassified 2017 report by the U.S. Office of Naval Intelligence, Iran acquired at least one Yono-class midget submarine from North Korea in 2004. Iranian engineers studied it, modified it, and built their own domestic production line. The result was the Ghadir, a weapon purpose-built for ambush in shallow water. The Yono-class was not theoretical. In March 2010, a North Korean Yono-class submarine fired a single torpedo at the ROKS Cheonan, a South Korean corvette operating in the Yellow Sea. The explosion broke the ship's keel. 46 South Korean sailors died. The submarine escaped undetected. South Korean and American anti-submarine warfare assets, some of the most capable in the world, were operating in the area. They never found the boat. The lesson the Cheonan taught was not simply that midget submarines are dangerous. The lesson was that in shallow, noisy, coastal water, they are effectively invisible. Iran absorbed that lesson. It built 23 of them. Now run the math that changes the conversation. One Arleigh Burke-class destroyer costs approximately $2 billion. One Ghadir costs an estimated $50 million per hull. Iran built roughly 20 of them for the price of 5 destroyers. Each Ghadir carries 2 533mm torpedo tubes. One of the weapons it can fire is the Hoot supercavitating torpedo, a system Iran reverse-engineered from the Russian Shkval, which travels at approximately 200 knots underwater. That is roughly 230 miles per hour through water. Reaction time for a target vessel upon detection, approximately 4 seconds. 4 seconds. That is the entire defensive window once the weapon is in the water. The SM-6 Interceptor, at $5.3 million per round, was designed to engage aerial threats. It cannot track a torpedo moving through water. The Mark 54 lightweight torpedo, the U.S. Navy's primary anti-submarine weapon, requires that the submarine be located first. In Hormuz's acoustic environment, that detection window may not exist before the Ghadir has already fired, settled back onto the seabed, and gone silent again. The Ghadir does not need to win a naval battle. It needs to fire once. One tanker struck by a torpedo in the 6-mile shipping corridor, 2 million barrels of crude oil burning in the lane. Every insurance underwriter on Earth pulls war risk coverage for the strait. The ships stop moving, not because of military force, because of market force. The mine does not sink a fleet. The torpedo does not have to either. It sinks an insurance policy, and Hormuz closes not by fire, but by fear. Fear only needs one example. Here is where the Pentagon's math stops holding together. Operation Epic Fury destroyed Iran's surface navy at scale. 60 surface warships confirmed on the seabed. Missile factories obliterated. Drone production lines silenced. The 3 Kilo-class submarines, larger, less suited to Hormuz's shallow water, were tracked and targeted in the early days of the campaign. But the Ghadir fleet operates on a different set of physics. These vessels base out of Bandar Abbas and a network of underground coastal tunnel facilities built specifically to conceal submarines from satellite surveillance. Those tunnels were engineered into the Iranian coastline over 4 decades precisely to survive an American air campaign. Satellite imagery from commercial providers showed submarines present at Bandar Abbas even after strikes, some apparently intact. USNI News reported in early March that while Iranian submarines were among the first targets of Epic Fury, the damage was more difficult to verify than the surface fleet. The Defense Security Monitor noted that strike damage to Iran's submarine force remained unclear as of the campaign's first week. Hegseth said Iran had 11 submarines and all are gone. Independent databases document 25 before the war began. The gap between those two numbers is not a press briefing rounding issue. That gap is submarines, potentially sitting quiet on the floor of a strait the Navy is trying to reopen. 14 unaccounted hulls are not a gap in the press briefing. They are a gap in the blockade. The standard response to submarine threats in a contested waterway is anti-submarine warfare. P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, MH-60R Seahawk helicopters with dipping sonar, and attack submarines at the approaches. Each of those tools faces the same fundamental constraint at Hormuz. The P-8 Poseidon is optimized for open ocean ASW at medium depth. Its sonobuoys are designed for water depths, where thermal layers create predictable acoustic ducting. In 36-meter water with dense background noise from shipping and drilling, sonobuoy effectiveness drops sharply. The acoustic physics simply do not cooperate. The MH-60R Seahawk's dipping sonar performs better in shallow water than the P-8's expendable buoys. But deploying a helicopter inside the Strait of Hormuz places it within range of any surviving Iranian coastal anti-aircraft positions and fast attack craft. The helicopter cannot hunt until the surface threat is neutralized. The surface threat cannot be fully neutralized until the submarines are found. The sequence creates a circular problem. And U.S. attack submarines. The Los Angeles-class or Virginia-class boats normally deployed as hunter-killers cannot safely operate in Hormuz's depths. In water that shallow, they become the hunted, not the hunter. Their size and acoustic profile work against them in the same environment where the Ghadir's size works for it. The Ghadir chose its battlefield for exactly this reason. It cannot be swept by the tools that were built to find it. The Navy has stated that 3 conditions must converge before the Strait of Hormuz can be safely reopened for commercial traffic. The first variable is the mines. The EM-52 rising mines, the Sadaf influence mines, the moored contact mines, an estimated 5,000 to 6,000 weapons on the seabed. Epic Fury destroyed Iran's mine-laying vessels and mine production facilities. The faucet is shut. The Tripoli is arriving with F-35Bs and 2,500 Marines to provide the protective bubble the LCS mine-clearing ships require. The clearance operation has a timeline measured in weeks. The second variable is the surface and coastal threat. Fast attack craft, mobile anti-ship missile launchers in mountain tunnels, fortified island positions. Epic Fury degraded approximately 90% of that equation. The A-10 Warthogs and AH-64 Apaches are handling the remainder, covering the corridor from air while the surface clearance operation begins. The third variable is the one the press briefing cannot close. Missing submarines, whatever number actually remains, sitting silent on the seabed of the world's most critical shipping corridor, each one capable of ending the reopening with a single torpedo into a slow-moving LCS mine-clearing ship or an unescorted tanker convoy. The Navy cannot clear mines with Ghadirs in the water. The LCS mine countermeasure ships are slow, predictable, and carry minimal self-defense weapons. They are vulnerable by design. They are built to clear, not to fight. One torpedo into an LCS conducting sweeping operations stops the operation and resets the timeline by months. The Ghadirs must be confirmed neutralized before the corridor can be declared safe, and confirmed neutralized is a higher evidentiary standard than 0 submarines per a White House press briefing. Here is what this video does not know and will not pretend to know. We do not know the precise number of Ghadirs that survived Epic Fury. The gap between Hegseth's count of 11 and the documented pre-war fleet of 25 could reflect destroyed hulls that were not publicly counted, boats scuttled in tunnel facilities that satellite imagery cannot confirm, or craft that are simply unaccounted for. The Pentagon's statements conflict with independent databases by a margin that deserves scrutiny, not assumption, in either direction. We do not know the operational status of Ghadirs that may remain in underground coastal facilities, whether they are combat-ready, under maintenance, damaged beyond use, or crewed by sailors willing to operate in a strait where Iran's surface navy no longer exists to support or extract them. We do not know whether the ceasefire, announced April 17th, revoked April 18th, currently in a state of contested ambiguity, changes the calculus for any submarine commander who may still be operating. What we do know is the geometry. The Strait of Hormuz is 6 nautical miles across in the shipping lane. A Ghadir on the seabed in those 6 miles, silent, settled, waiting, is not a theoretical threat. It is a tactical constraint that rewrites every timeline for when the first tanker convoy transits. 60 surface warships destroyed. All 11 submarines claimed gone, against a pre-war fleet of 25. And the most advanced navy in human history cannot safely reopen a 6-mile corridor until the number it cannot fully account for reaches confirmed 0, the verifiable 0, not the press briefing 0. The Ghadir does not need to be the most powerful submarine ever built. It needs to be unfindable in the one place it was engineered to hide. 7 crew members, 29 meters, 125 tons, battery power, seabed, silence. The White House said Iran has 0 submarine vessels. The Strait of Hormuz is 36 meters deep, acoustically opaque, geometrically confined, and as of this video has not been transited by a single commercial tanker under escort. Those 2 facts cannot both be fully true at the same time. Subscribe to the channel. The next equation is already in the water.